everywhere I look, it seems like everyone is insinuating that they want Anthony Joshua, AJ to vacate his belt. Because they just want to see, like, they're in a rush to see AJ versus Fury. All right, and I get that. That's a big fight that is probably going to be regarded as one of the biggest fights in UK heavyweight history, right? Especially with those two guys fighting, and the hype and the build up to that fight will be probably really good, especially when it comes to Fury, who knows how to talk up a fight, knows how to build up a fight. I would imagine it would be a laughing. It would just be I would be laughing the whole time watching those press conferences. But so I get why they want that fight to happen. And the last time I checked, I believe they have 2 fights already in line to happen next year. But obviously, he has Alexander USYK and Kurat Pulev, right? And a lot of people I see they're writing like little pieces online saying stuff like, should AJ vacate his WBO belt? Because if he vacated his belt, he wouldn't have to fight Alexander USYK, and he could just go right into the Tyson Fury fight, right? Because people are looking at that like, oh, USYK is in the way. USYK is in the way of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fighting right now. So we want to see them fight right now. So just vacate your belt, Joshua. Well, I don't want that to happen. My problem with that is, first of all, if he were to do something like that, people will look at that like he ducked USYK, right? When you vacate a belt, you look like a guy who's trying to avoid a guy. You know what I'm saying? So if Joshua were to vacate that belt, people would be saying, I guarantee you, oh, look. They wouldn't be looking at that like, oh, look, he vacated his belt to fight Fury. No, they'll be looking at that like, oh, he vacated that WBO strap because he was afraid to fight Alexander USYK. And then they're going to start that whole, he's ducking USYK. And then the USYK fans are gonna be like, all the heavyweights are afraid of USYK. Even Anthony Joshua vacated his belt to avoid him, right? And it's gonna start all that nonsense. That's one reason I don't want to see him vacate the belt. Another reason is I think that's a good fight historically. You have a dominant former cruiserweight champion who was undisputed at cruiserweight moving up to challenge the heavyweight champion with the majority of the belts, right? Anthony Joshua. And if he were to beat him, that would be historical for heavyweight boxing, because only a few cruiserweights were able to transition. How many cruiserweights went from undisputed at cruiserweight, moved up to heavyweight, and then won several belts at heavyweight, right? You could only name a handful, right? You could name guys like Evander Holyfield. You could maybe even name David Haye, although David Haye, really never became undisputed or won several belts at heavyweight. But you could maybe mention him as well. But so historically, that's one reason I want to see that. Also, I think he's a good opponent for someone like Joshua to have in your resume, right? Win or lose, it's a good opponent for him to have in his resume, because people are going to look at that like, okay, he fought USYK, who was a dominant champion at cruiserweight. Although he was a smaller guy, he was a dominant guy at cruiserweight. So that's a good look to have in your resume, right? A good name to have in your resume. Another big reason, and the main reason, is because obviously if he were to vacate that belt, then he would not fight Fury for the undisputed, right? That winner would be considered the best guy at heavyweight, but he will still be missing that WBO belt. And then they'll have to face, and then they're going to fight each other another time, probably a trilogy then. And then USYK is going to be around defending his WBO belt against maybe his mandatories, right? And we won't have an undisputed yet. So I just feel like this is that opportunity for these guys to face each other and become undisputed, and finally end the drought of not having an undisputed heavyweight champion for the last 17 years. And again, even if he gets stripped, even if the winner of that fight, of the undisputed fight, gets stripped within 2 months, because there's no way he could defend his belts against all these mandatories, because he has all these belts and he has too many mandatories, and so he's forced to vacate some of these belts. Even if that's the case, at least we could say, oh, look, this guy won became undisputed at heavyweight. So I want to see that fight happen. And I'm not really I'm not in a rush to see Joshua versus Fury because I know they're going to fight next year anyway. They already signed, apparently, or supposedly, I remember months ago or weeks ago, whatever, Fury came out and said that he signed a 2-fight deal to fight AJ next year. So they're already going to fight, right? Now, obviously, maybe as something changes, because maybe Deontay Wilder beats Tyson Fury and then he just ruins that, and now he's no longer the WBC champion. Or maybe a Kurat Pulev or Alexander Usyk beat Anthony Joshua, but I think that I still want to see them fight those guys. Especially, I want him to get rid of Kurat Pulev. Ugh, hate that guy. But also the Usyk fight, I already told you why. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that he should vacate his belt? Like, there's a lot of people online saying he should vacate his WBO belt and just fight the Tyson Fury fight. Or should he, fight his obligated mandatory in USYK and then fight, if he beats him, then obviously fight Fury for the 2 fights. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about that. I want him to fight USYK and then go after Fury.